You're sitting in a room full of people, and you feel completely alone. Not because no one's talking to you, but because no one understands what you're saying. You mention an idea, something you've been thinking about for weeks, and you watch their eyes glaze over. They nod politely, change the subject, or worse, they misinterpret everything you said and respond to an argument you never made. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you're intelligent, you're going to suffer more than most people. Not because life is harder for you in practical terms, you'll probably navigate it better than average, but because your mind itself is a burden. Your ability to see patterns, to question assumptions, to think deeply about existence, these aren't gifts, they're curses disguised as advantages. Schopenhauer knew this. He spent his life observing how intelligence amplifies suffering in ways that Poutonren never experience. And today, neuroscience and psychology have caught up to what he understood 2 centuries ago. Your brain, in all its complexity, is engineering your misery with precision. This isn't a self-help video. I'm not going to tell you how to optimize your intelligence or embrace your gifts. I'm going to show you exactly why your intelligence guarantees suffering, why there's no escape from it, and why accepting this truth might be the only freedom you'll ever find. Let's begin.
The first reason. You live in perpetual intellectual solitude. Think about the last conversation you had that actually satisfied you. Not small talk, not pleasantries. A conversation where someone genuinely understood the depth of what you were saying, built on your ideas, challenged you with equal rigor. When was it? Last week? Last month? Last year? For most intelligent people, these conversations are so rare they're memorable. You can count them. You can name the people. And this isn't because you're arrogant or because you think you're better than everyone else. It's mathematical. Schopenhauer wrote, "Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see." But here's what he didn't say explicitly. If no one else can see the target, no one can understand why you're aiming there. You're playing a game on a board that's invisible to most people around you. This is your first curse, perpetual intellectual solitude. You're surrounded by people, but you're fundamentally alone in how you process reality. When you think about a problem, you see layers, historical context, logical implications, contradictions, alternative frameworks. When most people think about the same problem, they see the surface. They see the immediate, the emotional, the socially acceptable answer. Let me give you a scenario. You're discussing politics, philosophy, or even something as simple as a movie. You point out a logical inconsistency, a deeper theme, an unexamined assumption. The person you're talking to doesn't engage with your point. Instead, they respond to what they think you're saying, usually something far simpler, often something you never said at all. You try to clarify, they get defensive or confused. The conversation dies. This happens over and over, not occasionally, constantly. And each time you feel that gap widening, the distance between your internal world and the world everyone else inhabits. Schopenhauer observed that the more a man belongs to posterity, in other words, to humanity in general, the more of an alien he is to his contemporaries. You're alien, not metaphorically, cognitively. The intelligent person learns to translate their thoughts down several levels just to be understood. You develop a second language, a simpler one for most interactions. You learn to hide the depth of your thinking because revealing it either confuses people or threatens them. And this translation, it's exhausting. Every conversation becomes a performance where you're playing a less intelligent version of yourself. And here's the cruelest part. You can't escape this by finding your people. Even among the intelligent, there are gradations. There are people who can follow you most of the way, but not all the way. And the higher your intelligence, the smaller the pool of people who can meet you where you are. Eventually, if you're at the far end of the distribution, there might be no one at all. You are doomed to intellectual solitude, not because you choose it, but because the architecture of your mind isolates you by default. The second reason is you cannot unsee the suffering. Most people have a psychological immune system. They can look at the world, the cruelty, the injustice, the fundamental unfairness of existence, and somehow not let it destroy them. They compartmentalize, they distract themselves, they believe in narratives that make it all make sense. Justice will prevail, good things happen to good people, everything happens for a reason. You don't have that luxury. Your intelligence won't let you believe comfortable lies. Schopenhauer built his entire philosophy on this insight. He wrote, "The life of every individual, viewed as a whole and in general, and when only its most significant features are emphasized, is really a tragedy, but gone through in detail, it has the character of a comedy." You see both simultaneously. You see the cosmic tragedy and the absurd comedy, and you can't choose to see just one. When you read the news, you don't just see the event, you see the systemic causes, the historical patterns, the incentive structures that guarantee this will happen again. When you look at human behavior, you don't just see individual choices, you see evolutionary programming, cognitive biases, social conditioning. The veil is permanently lifted, and you can't put it back. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he said the wise man is never joyful. It's not that intelligent people can't experience pleasure, it's that they can't experience innocent joy, the kind that requires not thinking too deeply about what you're enjoying. You watch people around you celebrate achievements that you know are temporary. They get excited about promotions, purchases, relationships, things that psychological research confirms will return them to baseline happiness within months. Hedonic adaptation. You know this. They don't. Or they do, but they can forget it long enough to feel genuinely happy. You can't. You look at a beautiful sunset, and part of your brain is calculating the angle of light refraction through atmospheric particles. You experience love, and you're simultaneously aware of the neurochemical cascade of oxytocin and dopamine that's creating the feeling. You achieve something, and you immediately recognize it as a temporary relief from wanting, not an actual solution to the fundamental dissatisfaction Schopenhauer called the will. The more intelligent you are, the more you see the machinery behind everything, and seeing the machinery ruins the magic. You become like someone who knows how every magic trick works. You can still watch the show, but you can't be amazed. You can still live life, but you can't be naively happy. And it gets worse, because you don't just see through your own illusions, you see through everyone else's. You watch people make terrible decisions based on obvious cognitive biases. You see them ruin their lives following advice that sounds profound but is logically incoherent. You see them suffer needlessly because they can't think clearly about their own situation. And you can't help most of them, because helping requires them to see what you see, and they can't. So you watch. You understand exactly why they're suffering and exactly how they could stop, but you're powerless to intervene in any meaningful way. Schopenhauer again. Compassion is the basis of morality, but compassion combined with intelligence becomes an instrument of torture. You feel the suffering of others more acutely because you understand it more completely, and you're helpless to stop it. This is your second curse. You see too much, and you cannot unsee it. The third reason. Your mind won't let you rest. Here's something no one tells you about intelligence. It doesn't turn off. Ever. Most people can watch a movie without analyzing the narrative structure. They can have a conversation without tracking logical fallacies. They can lie in bed at night and just stop thinking. Their minds have an off switch. Yours doesn't. Schopenhauer recognized this torment. Intellect is invisible to the man who has none. But it's also relentless to the man who has too much. Your brain is a machine that keeps running whether you want it to or not. It keeps processing, analyzing, questioning, connecting. And this isn't a superpower, it's exhausting. You're trying to fall asleep and your mind is solving a problem you don't even care about. You're in the shower and you're constructing arguments about topics that don't matter. You're supposed to be relaxing, and you're deconstructing the assumptions behind a statement someone made 3 days ago. The intelligent mind is a prison you can never escape because you are the prison. Think about rumination. Average people ruminate about their problems. They think in circles about their breakup, their job, their anxiety. Intelligent people ruminate about everything. You ruminate about abstract philosophical questions. You ruminate about the nature of consciousness. You ruminate about whether your rumination is productive or destructive. And then you ruminate about that meta-rumination is itself a problem. And here's where it gets insidious. You know this is happening. You're aware of your own thought patterns. You can observe yourself overthinking, overanalyzing, getting lost in abstraction. But knowing doesn't stop it. If anything, it makes it worse, because now you're thinking about your thinking, which is just another layer of thought. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, but that's too kind. It's not paralysis, it's perpetual motion. Your mind is always moving, always working, always consuming energy, and unlike physical work, mental work never leaves you feeling accomplished. It just leaves you tired. Schopenhauer wrote, "We can regard our life as a uselessly disturbing episode in the blissful repose of nothingness." For intelligent people, there's no repose. Even nothingness becomes something to think about, analyze, question. You can't rest in ignorance because you're not ignorant. You can't rest in certainty because you're too intelligent to be certain about anything. The cruel irony is that intelligence is supposed to help you solve problems, but the intelligent mind creates problems faster than it solves them. For every question you answer, you generate 3 new questions. For every issue you resolve, you notice 2 more complexities. You're running on a treadmill that speeds up the faster you run. And this is why intelligent people are so prone to anxiety and depression, not because they face more problems than others, but because their minds won't stop generating them. The baseline state of an intelligent mind isn't peace, it's low-grade, constant mental activity that occasionally spikes into full existential crisis. This is your third curse. Your intelligence is a machine that runs constantly, consuming your energy, giving you no rest, and producing suffering as its primary output.
The fourth reason. You're incompatible with modern life. Let's talk about something specific, your job. You probably have one, and there's a good chance you hate it. Not because it's difficult, you could probably do it with half your brain capacity, but because it's meaningless. Schopenhauer observed, "Wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become." But here's the modern version. Work is like seawater for the intelligent mind. The more you do, the more empty you feel. You sit in meetings where nothing is accomplished. You complete tasks that serve no real purpose beyond generating metrics for someone else's performance review. You watch incompetent people get promoted because they're better at politics than execution. and you can see it all. The inefficiency, the waste, the cargo cult productivity, the entire absurd theater of modern work. Most people can participate in this theater without being destroyed by it. They can take it seriously enough to function, trivial enough not to care too deeply. They exist in a sweet spot of semi-awareness. You can't. You see the emperor has no clothes, and you see everyone pretending they don't see it too. And you see yourself participating in the pretense, and it makes you want to scream. But it's not just work, it's everything about how modern society is structured. You're intelligent enough to see that most social norms are arbitrary, most status games are meaningless, most of what people care about is manufactured desire. But you're not so intelligent that you can opt out entirely. You still need money, you still need some degree of social connection, you still have to participate in systems you know are fundamentally broken. This is the incompatibility problem. Schopenhauer described it perfectly. A man can be himself so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. But you can't be alone all the time. You have to interface with society, and every interface is friction. You're too intelligent to believe the myths that make society function smoothly, but not powerful enough to restructure society around better principles. So you're stuck in this middle space, aware enough to suffer from the absurdity, but not free enough to escape it. Think about dating and relationships. You analyze what you're feeling instead of just feeling it. You recognize that romantic love is partially neurochemical delusion, partially social programming, partially evolutionary strategy. And knowing this doesn't make you immune to it, it just makes you unable to enjoy it innocently. You meet someone, and while part of you is experiencing attraction, another part is observing the attraction, analyzing why it's happening, questioning whether it's real or conditioned, wondering if you're compatible long-term based on personality research and divorce statistics. You're experiencing life and simultaneously writing the documentary about experiencing life. It's exhausting. And here's the worst part. The intelligent person often ends up alone, not because they can't find someone, but because they can't stop seeing the flaws in everyone, including themselves. Every relationship is analyzed to death. Every potential partner is measured against impossible standards. Every moment of connection is undercut by awareness of its transience. This is your fourth curse. You're smart enough to see through society's illusions, but not powerful enough to escape them. You're trapped in systems you know are broken, playing games you know are meaningless, and you can't even pretend otherwise.
The fifth reason. You know better, so you're accountable. Here is something nobody talks about. Intelligence creates moral responsibility, and moral responsibility creates suffering. When you're intelligent, you can't claim ignorance. You can't say you didn't know better. You see the consequences of your actions several steps ahead. You understand the systems you're participating in. You recognize your complicity and structures that cause harm. And this awareness is a weight most people don't carry. Schopenhauer wrote, "Compassion is the basis of morality." But compassion requires understanding, and understanding requires intelligence. The more intelligent you are, the more you understand about suffering, yours and everyone else's, and the more you understand, the more responsible you feel. You know that your consumption patterns contribute to environmental destruction. You know that your investment portfolio might include companies doing unethical things. You know that your silence in certain situations is a form of complicity. Most people can compartmentalize this knowledge or remain genuinely ignorant of it. You can't. Every choice becomes an ethical calculation. Should you eat this, buy that, say this, support that? And there's no good answer because you're intelligent enough to see that every choice has negative consequences somewhere down the line. Ethical consumption under capitalism is impossible, but knowing that doesn't free you from the guilt of participating. This is what philosophers call moral luck, but experienced from the inside. You didn't choose to be intelligent enough to see these dilemmas, but now that you do see them, you can't act with the moral simplicity that brings peace of mind. And it gets worse with age, because the more you learn, the more you understand about how the world works, the more complicit you realize you've been all along. Every new piece of knowledge adds to the weight. Every insight into human nature, into economic systems, into power structures, it all adds up to a crushing awareness of your own participation in suffering. Schopenhauer again. The person who writes for fools is always sure of a large audience, but the person who thinks for themselves is always sure of constant guilt, because thinking reveals implications, and implications create responsibility. Let me give you a concrete example. You understand enough psychology to know that free will is likely an illusion, that people's choices are the product of genetics, environment, and neurochemistry they didn't choose. This should make you more compassionate, and it does, but it also makes you more aware of your own lack of free will. You see yourself making choices you know are suboptimal, driven by impulses you understand but can't fully control. You're simultaneously the scientist observing the rat in the maze and the rat running the maze, and being both means you suffer twice, once from the experience and once from the awareness of the experience. This creates a particular kind of hell for intelligent people. You're accountable for things you didn't choose. Your intelligence itself was genetic luck. Your circumstances were random. But now you're here, aware, understanding, responsible, and there's no one to blame and nothing to do except carry the weight. The intelligent person can't be innocent, ever. Innocence requires not knowing, and you know too much. You've eaten from the tree of knowledge, and you can't go back to the garden. This is your fifth curse. Your intelligence makes you morally responsible for things most people never even think about, and that responsibility is a burden you'll carry until you die.
The sixth reason. Success doesn't satisfy you. You've probably achieved things. If you're intelligent, you've likely succeeded more than most people. Good grades, good job, some recognition, some status. And yet, here you are, still searching for something, still unsatisfied, still suffering. This is the achievement paradox that Schopenhauer identified. The wise man is never joyful. Why? Because achievement only satisfies you if you're not intelligent enough to see through it. When you accomplish something, what happens? For a moment, maybe a day, maybe a week, you feel good. Then the feeling fades, and you know exactly why it's fading. Hedonic adaptation, the return to baseline, the psychological immune system recalibrating. You understand the mechanism so clearly that you can't even enjoy the temporary high without recognizing it as temporary. But here's what's worse. You also see that the achievement itself was arbitrary. You got the promotion, but you understand that promotions are socially constructed hierarchies that have no objective meaning. You publish the paper, but you know that academic recognition is a game with rules that don't correlate to truth or importance. You earned the money, but you've read enough philosophy to know that wealth beyond basic comfort has diminishing returns on happiness. Schopenhauer explained it perfectly. Wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. And the same is true of fame.
But for intelligent people, it's even worse. You're thirsty, you drink, you know the drink won't satisfy you, it doesn't satisfy you, and you feel stupid for drinking in the first place. Every achievement is immediately devalued by your understanding of its meaninglessness in the grand scheme. You finish a big project, and instead of celebrating, you're already thinking about how it doesn't matter, how everything you do will be forgotten, how the universe is indifferent to your accomplishments. And this creates a vicious cycle. You can't stop achieving because society demands it, because you need to survive, because some part of your brain is still wired to seek status and recognition, but you also can't enjoy achieving because you see through the whole game. So you're trapped in perpetual striving for goals you know won't satisfy you. Think about the last time you set a goal. Maybe you wanted to learn something, create something, accomplish something. You worked toward it. Maybe you achieved it. And then what? Did it fundamentally change your life? Did it make you happier for more than a few days? Or did you just move the goalpost and start chasing the next thing? Intelligent people are especially susceptible to this because they're good at achieving things. You can learn faster, produce better work, solve harder problems, but being good at the game doesn't make the game meaningful. If anything, it makes the meaninglessness more obvious. You're speedrunning a game you know has no final level, no ultimate boss, no actual point. Schopenhauer wrote, "Life swings like a pendulum, backward and forward between pain and boredom. But for the intelligent, there's a third position, the suffering of knowing you're on the pendulum. You achieve something, brief relief from pain, then boredom, then back to pain in the form of new desires, and you see the whole cycle happening, which means you're suffering even during the moments that are supposed to be relief. The truly cruel irony is that intelligence should help you achieve more, and it does, but it also ensures that achieving more makes you no happier. You're better at a game that was rigged from the start, rigged by evolution to keep you striving, never satisfied, always wanting more. This is your sixth curse. You're capable of great achievement, but incapable of being satisfied by it. Success is hollow because you're too intelligent to believe in its value.
And here we arrive at the final curse, the ultimate source of suffering for the intelligent mind. You are acutely, painfully aware of your own mortality and the ultimate meaninglessness of everything you do. Most people know they're going to die, but knowing and truly understanding are different. Intelligent people can't avoid the full implications. You will die. Everyone you love will die. Everything you create will be forgotten. The sun will eventually explode. The universe will reach heat death. Nothing you do matters on any cosmic scale. Schopenhauer understood this as the core of human suffering. Life is a constant process of dying. But for intelligent people, it's not just life in general, it's your specific life with your specific consciousness that you know will be extinguished. And unlike most people, you can't comfort yourself with religious fantasies or vague hopes about legacy. You know too much neuroscience to believe in an immaterial soul. You know too much physics to believe in cosmic justice. You know too much psychology to believe your life has objective meaning. You're stuck with the raw existential truth. You're a temporary pattern of matter that will disperse, and then there will be nothing. And here's what makes this unbearable: consciousness itself. Schopenhauer called the will to live the source of all suffering, but consciousness is the mechanism that makes the suffering inescapable. You're not just alive, you're aware of being alive. You're not just mortal, you're aware of your mortality, and that awareness is the difference between animal existence and human torment. Every moment of joy is undercut by the knowledge that it will end. Every relationship exists in the shadow of inevitable loss through death or separation. Every achievement is built on sand that will eventually wash away. And you can't forget this. You can't unsee it. Your intelligence keeps bringing you back to these fundamental truths, no matter how hard you try to distract yourself. Think about what this means practically. You're having a perfect moment, watching a sunset, laughing with friends, experiencing flow in your work, and part of your brain is already mourning its ending, already recognizing it as a temporary chemical state, already placing it in the context of your finite existence. The intelligent mind cannot be fully present because it's always aware of context, always seeing the bigger picture, always remembering that nothing lasts. Schopenhauer wrote, "Human life must be some kind of mistake." And for the intelligent person, this isn't poetic pessimism, it's observable fact. You didn't ask to be conscious. You didn't choose to be intelligent. You were thrown into existence without consent, given a brain that ensures suffering, and told to make the best of it. And the worst part? You can't even escape through suicide because you understand that too clearly. You know it would devastate people you care about. You know it's a permanent solution to what might be a temporary problem. You know that the suffering that makes you want to escape is itself a product of your intelligence, which means your intelligence has trapped you in existence. This is the final curse. Your consciousness is sophisticated enough to understand its own contingency, its own eventual annihilation, and the ultimate meaninglessness of everything within it. You're aware of being aware, and that meta-awareness is the source of uniquely human suffering.
So, what do you do with all this? What do you do when you understand that your intelligence is not a gift, but a guarantee of suffering? You accept it. Not with resignation, not with despair, but with clear-eyed understanding. You are intelligent, and therefore you will suffer more than most people. This is not fair. It's not just. It's not even your fault. But it is reality. Schopenhauer's final wisdom wasn't about escaping suffering. It was about acknowledging it fully. He wrote, "We can regard our life as a uselessly disturbing episode in the blissful repose of nothingness. But in that acknowledgement is a strange kind of freedom. When you stop fighting against the nature of your own mind, something shifts. You're still suffering. You're still isolated, still burdened by awareness, still unable to find innocent joy. But you're no longer surprised by it. You're no longer asking, why me? You understand. This is what intelligence costs. Accept that most people will never understand you. Accept it. They can't. The gap is real, unbridgeable, permanent. Accept it. Accept that you will see suffering everywhere and be unable to stop it. Accept it. Compassion without power is the human condition. Accept it. Accept that your mind will never rest, never stop analyzing, never let you simply exist without commentary. Accept it. This is what you are. Accept it. Accept that society will feel foreign, that success will feel hollow, that achievement will bring no lasting satisfaction. Accept it. These aren't bugs in your experience. They're features of intelligence. Accept it. Accept that you are responsible for things you didn't choose, burdened with awareness you didn't ask for, conscious in ways that guarantee suffering. Accept it. This is your reality. Accept it. And here's what Schopenhauer understood that most people miss. Acceptance is not defeat. It's the end of the war between what is and what you wish were true. When you stop fighting your intelligence, when you stop hoping it will somehow lead to happiness, when you accept that suffering is the price of awareness, you gain something else. You gain clarity. You gain authenticity. You gain freedom from the false promises that keep most people in cycles of hope and disappointment. You're not happy, but you're real. You're not joyful, but you're awake. And maybe, just maybe, that's worth something. Not because it feels good, but because it's true. And for the intelligent mind, truth has a value that transcends feeling. You are doomed to suffer. Accept it. But in that acceptance, you are also free to stop pretending otherwise. This is the reality Schopenhauer showed us 200 years ago, and it's no less true today. Intelligence is a curse that guarantees suffering. But it's your curse, and understanding it fully is the only honest path forward. If this video made sense to you, if you recognized yourself in these 7 reasons, write in the comments, "It made sense to me." I want to know I'm not alone in this understanding, and I want you to know you're not alone either. If you want to go deeper, if you want tools for navigating consciousness when it becomes unbearable, I've put together a guide on meditation and awareness practices specifically for the intelligent mind. Link is in the description. These aren't solutions. Remember, there are no solutions, but they're methods for existing with less resistance to what is. Subscribe if you want more brutal truths, more philosophy that doesn't sugarcoat, more honest analysis of what it means to be conscious in a world that wasn't designed for consciousness. And remember, you're intelligent, so you'll suffer. But you're also aware enough to understand your suffering, and that understanding, however painful, is the closest thing to freedom you're going to get.